Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed, we do. Lots of big new developments with regards to that FBI search on Mar-a-Lago, Trump's home. Some new details that give us a little bit more of the contours of what's going on, of also his shifting defenses. He's kind of all over the map about what he's saying about it. And there's also a little bit of political fallout now. We can see the Republicans a little bit more divided about exactly how to respond to this. We also see some poll numbers showing that this might not be good for Trump overall, but it seems to be very good for him with regards to the Republican base. We also want to give you the details of this attack on an FBI office in Cincinnati. The gunman was ultimately shot dead by law enforcement, and increased threats against the FBI in the wake of this raid. So we have all of that. Also, the attack on Salman Rushdie. He is reportedly now beginning to recover, but that road to recovery is very long. We'll tell you what we know about the attacker. And a story we haven't talked about for a minute, but we have some new details about exactly what happened in that horrific on-set tragedy with regards to Alec Baldwin, a new FBI report there. A lot of FBI in the show today.
Yeah, so that's right.
We'll tell you about that. We also have Alex Holder on. He is that documentarian who was subpoenaed by the January 6th committee, also subpoenaed down in the Georgia investigation of Trump. He had sort of, well, the film is called Unprecedented, and he really did have unprecedented access to Trump and to his family in the run-up to the election. I actually watched the whole thing last night, and it was really weird reliving the whole election because so much happened that there were just pieces I completely memory hold. I forgot how close it was to Election Day when Trump got COVID.
Yes.
It was in the hospital and on death's door right before I sort of forgot how close to Election Day.
Oh,
crazy. Yeah. Anyway.
Reliving it is fun.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so the very latest developments, as you guys know, we had this raid on Mar-a-Lago. FBI goes in, shocking development. And there immediately were a lot of calls for increased transparency from the DOJ. Hey, we want to see what you're doing. We want to see what you took from here. Merrick Garland gave a press conference and said, okay, I'm authorizing the unsealing because the president revealed the existence of this raid and some of the details. I'm going to go ahead and ask the court to unseal the search warrant and the inventory list of what was taken in that search. After some debate, I think internally, the Trump team agreed. They said, okay, we're okay with this. And so those documents became public. Here's some of what we learned there. Let's go ahead and put the Wall Street Journal up on the screen. They were among the first news outlets to actually get their hands on these documents. They recovered, the FBI, 11 sets of classified documents in the Trump search, according to that list of inventory. And I'm going to show you the inventory list in a minute. It doesn't go into a lot of specific detail, but it does give you some sort of high-level categories that give us a little bit of insight. And also on the search warrant, it indicates which criminal statutes they are actually, that this investigation has to do with. So here's a little bit of the detail from this Wall Street Journal report. They say FBI agents who searched former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home removed 11 sets of classified documents, including some marked as top secret and meant to be only available in special government facilities. That is according to that search warrant and inventory list. The FBI agents took around 20 boxes of items, binders of photos. Some of the details here are sort of amusing. A handwritten note in the executive grant of clemency for Roger Stone. Right. List of items removed from the property shows. Also included in the list was information about the president of France. There were some additional reporting about some of the specifics of the documents that were removed. I believe it was the Washington Post who had the bombshell report that some sort of nuclear information was included in the documents that they were at least searching for. New York Times reporting that it included special access programs. That is some of the most highly sensitive information that the government has. Let's go ahead and put the image of the inventory list up on the screen, just to give you a sense of the sort of high-level categories that they have on here. They list sort of like general categories of documents, but they don't get into like nuclear secrets or anything like that. They do indicate, though, that there is quite a bit of secret and top secret documents that were taken out of Mar-a-Lago, or at least they're marked secret and top secret. We'll get into some of the debate about classification, how all of that works, which we've been discussing on this show already. Next, let's put the New York Times up on the screen, which gets into some of the laws and criminal statutes that were listed in this search warrant. So there were 3 criminal statutes that were mentioned, one of which is the kind of most eye-catching in terms of its name, is a provision of the Espionage Act. It is criminalizes the unauthorized retention or disclosure of information related to national defense that could be used to harm the U.S. or aid a foreign adversary. Each offense can carry a penalty of up to 10 years in prison. Worth noting, with regards to the Espionage Act, it doesn't actually require that you're like a spy. As I just indicated, it just requires that you had, as they say, unauthorized retention or disclosure of information related to national defense. So even just, having it when you're not supposed to, and it could be a risk, could subject you to prosecution under the Espionage Act. Of course, also the Espionage Act was, in my opinion, abused by the Trump administration to go after Julian Assange, but that's another story for another day. They also have in here obstruction, which could be related to the fact that we now know the Trump administration had been in contact with the FBI and the DOJ and the National Archives. They've been asking for these documents. They'd even been issued a subpoena previously for these documents, claimed they'd sent it over, and clearly that wasn't the case. So that could be what's playing into the obstruction charge that's not charge, but criminal statute that's listed here. He's not been indicted. There haven't been any charges filed. The third law criminalizes, it's called Section 2071, criminalizes the theft or destruction of government documents. It makes it a crime punishable in part by up to 3 years in prison per offense for anyone with custody of any record or document from federal court or public office to willfully and unlawfully conceal, remove, mutilate, falsify, or destroy it. One thing that is of note that we can talk about more when we get into some of Trump's defenses is that none of these criminal statutes technically require the documents involved to be classified. Now, the Espionage Act in particular, there haven't been cases in the past where the documents weren't classified and there was a charge here. So it would be unusual to have an Espionage Act charge and not have the documents involved be classified. However, it doesn't specifically mention classification in the language. It's actually a law that predates our system of classification. And so if the classification markings are sort of considered an indicator that this could be a problem for our national defense, but not necessarily determinative. So that's the big picture.
That's why I think it's actually probably worth stewing as much as possible on this, which is a lot of people looked at the actual inventory. There were 4 separate boxes, box 10A, 11A, 13A, and 14A, which were labeled as either miscellaneous secret documents, miscellaneous top secret documents, or miscellaneous confidential documents. So the reason that all of that qualification and classification matters is it refers to the various levels of classification. You both have like a normal level of classification, secret, top secret, then there's special compartmentalized information, which is very, very classified up into the quote-unquote need-to-know basis. Obviously, the president is the ultimate classification authority. So previously, and we will get to some of Trump's defense, where he speaks about classification and how his ability as president of the United States to declassify supersedes anything, it just bears the fact that all 3 of the laws that are cited specifically in the search warrant do not necessarily mean the information itself has to be classified. That being said, as you pointed out, these are very novel interpretations of the law. Not even interpretation. They have not been tested yet in a court, and especially not been tested against a former president of the United States.
For the Espionage Act, that's the case. For the others, obstruction and, the one that's like criminalizing the theft or destruction of government documents, that one, it's widely accepted that that doesn't have to be classified documents, and I think that they've been charged that way in the past. The Espionage Act one, as I said, the idea is the fact that the documents are classified is an indication to the court that these are documents that are very serious from a national security perspective. But you can imagine the situation where, he's doing his, I waved my hand and said they're declassified, but it's information that is clearly extremely sensitive. I mean, there's some reporting also that some of the documents had to do with our, human assets, like intelligence assets overseas. And when they talk about special access programs, this is the type of information that literally no one can sort of take with them. You have to go and view it inside of one of these government skiffs that are designed for viewing this sort of sensitive information. So That's what we know about, what was in the inventory list. That's what we know about what the criminal statutes are that they, were able to take to a federal judge and at least convince that judge that they had likelihood that they would find evidence of these crimes at Mar-a-Lago. So you've got Espionage Act, you've got obstruction, and then you've got, I think that last one, isn't that the one that Trump sort of beefed up because he wanted to
that was Section 207.
own the libs with regards to Hillary.
Right. Criminalizing the theft or destruction of government documents that makes it a crime punishable up to 3 years in prison for anyone with custody of any record or document from federal court or public office to willfully and unlawfully conceal, remove, mutilate, falsify, or destroy it. I also do think it's worth reading this particular line from the warrant. Agents were authorized to seize, quote, any government and or presidential records created between January 20th, 2017 and January 20th, 2021, obviously the dates that Trump was actually president of the United States, as well as, quote, any evidence of the knowing alteration, destruction, or concealment of any government and or presidential records or any documents with classification markings. So they had a very, very wide, basically authority to seize whatever the hell they wanted in between that period.
And in terms of the rooms that they were allowed to search, it was basically anything that wasn't, where the guests are staying in the sort of private club part of it, but any place where Trump might have been storing documents, his office, the basement in particular, they were authorized to go. And there was also reporting that's come out that they were actually, because they have closed circuit TV, they were able to watch the search.
Yes.
The Trump people from, I think he was in New Jersey at Bedminster at that time. So interesting little detail there. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.